Hello and welcome to this video. What is a SWOT analysis? My name is Will Trevor of York School of Business, and today we're going to answer the question, what is a SWOT analysis? On the agenda today, firstly we're going to ask, when can the SWOT analysis be used? What is a SWOT analysis? Then, how is the SWOT analysis actually used in practice? And then some brief criticisms and limitations of the use of SWOT, and finishing off with a brief summary of the things that we've talked about today. So firstly, when can it be used? Perhaps you have a business venture, a business idea that you want to understand the feasibility of. A SWOT analysis can be used in those initial stages. Equally, you may have a different project. Perhaps you're planning the construction of a house or an office block or any other type of project, and you want to understand what sort of environment you're going to face as you start that process, and to understand whether or not the project is feasible from the outset. Maybe you have a new product that you're intending to launch, and you want to understand a bit more about whether that product is even going to be viable when you come to launch it. It could equally relate to a place. You could do a SWOT analysis perhaps on an area of the country or an area of the city in which you want to live, and weigh up the various opportunities and the strengths and the weaknesses. Equally, as an individual, as a person, you might want to use a SWOT analysis as part of your own personal development. You may reach that time in life where you want to understand, well, what are the opportunities out there for me? Equally, what are the strengths that I have, and what are the weaknesses I perhaps need to develop? You might be looking at the actual industry in which your business operates and want to understand more about it. A SWOT analysis can play a role in that too. Equally, within marketing, you will see SWOT analysis used within the audit process, and most importantly, you will find SWOT analysis appearing within corporate planning. So, to answer the fundamental question, what is a SWOT analysis? As we've already touched upon, it is a very powerful both method and planning tool for the range of uses that we've already just discussed. On the right of your screen, you'll see the typical 2x2 SWOT matrix with the 4 quadrants of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Precisely where the original SWOT analysis came from is somewhat unclear, but it still remains the fact that we have it as a very powerful tool to use, and within a range of situations. Basically, what it does is to match the internal capabilities of the organization, or indeed the individual, and match them to the external factors, the wider business environment perhaps in which the organization operates, or the business environment in which our new business venture, if we were to launch it, is going to operate as well. It looks at our strengths, usually internal, either to us or our organization. These are the things that provide advantage to us or confer some benefit to us in terms of what we're hoping to do. On the opposite side of that, still looking internally, are the idea of the weaknesses. You know, what are the disadvantages we face, or what are the areas that we need for future improvement? Then we move externally with the opportunities and threats. And the opportunities, now those are the current factors that we could exploit to the advantage of the individual or the organization. And conversely, the threats are potential problems or issues that might prevent our progress. What we're looking for in using the SWOT is this idea of strategic fit. To what extent are our internal capabilities matching the external environment? To what extent are either our personal strengths able to embrace the opportunity that we've identified, or the internal strengths of the organization able to embrace the opportunity that has been spotted. Having analyzed that strategic fit, we can then ask whether or not the objectives that we have set ourselves or set for the firm are actually achievable in the light of that analysis. So how is SWOT used? Usually in terms of a corporate planning, which is the example I'm going to use here, within the corporate planning process, there's usually some set of objectives that we wish to achieve first of all. We might wish to understand how feasible and how realistic those objectives are. Remember that objectives always should be SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So from the initial setting of the objectives, we then conduct a process that is called environmental scanning, utilizing a range of tools. The pest analysis tool may be familiar to you in terms of political, economic, social, and technological factors in the macro environment, the wider business environment in which the organization operates, or the Porter's 5 forces model that looks at competitiveness within a particular industry, or indeed looking more internally within the microenvironment, the McKinsey 7S's model that examines factors such as staff and strategy and looks at some of the perhaps strengths and weaknesses of the organization. Having used some of those tools, the SWOT analysis fits very neatly at the end of that particular environmental scanning process, because we can draw in those strengths and weaknesses from the external environment, perhaps coming from the pest or the Porter's 5 forces. Equally, we can draw in the internal strengths and weaknesses, perhaps from looking at something like a McKinsey 7S's module. So thus we're able to evaluate those internal capabilities and match them against the environmental and business factors before moving on to analyze our existing strategies and evaluate what alternatives that we have that may have emerged from the environmental scanning process that we've just conducted. Then moving on to establish those strategies, again based upon the evidence gained from that analysis. From there we move on to our actual implementation, whether through operational or tactical plans, and the control of the process to monitor how we are progressing towards the achievement of our objectives, perhaps using a range of various KPIs or key performance indicators. What is important to remember about the SWOT, though, as part of this process, it is not a one-off. It's not something that is done once and forgotten about, or once every 3 years, or once every 5 years. The environmental scanning and the use of the various tools such as the SWOT should be used on an ongoing and regular basis. So on to criticisms and limitations, of which there are a few, some perhaps more valid than others. Some critics have pointed to the fact that the SWOT can be difficult in terms of translating into meaningful action, but that's often not a criticism of SWOT. That's more a criticism of the way in which the tool has been used. Second point is that elements within the SWOT can perhaps sometimes be misrepresented. If you've put incorrect information into the SWOT in terms of your strengths and weaknesses, and incorrect information in terms of your opportunities and threats, then naturally the conclusions that may be drawn from it may be incorrect, because the evidence upon which you've based them has been misrepresented. This leads on to the next point as well, that perhaps the SWOT could be used to justify previously decided objectives rather than to take a fresh look at whether or not those objectives remain realistic and feasible. The fourth point suggests perhaps the limits. A SWOT can limit the boundaries of our decision making if we are too focused upon what opportunities the SWOT has thrown up. We may be blind to perhaps the opportunities that lie outside of the SWOT. But again, this is more criticism of the use of the model, because done correctly, that environmental scanning process should ensure that those opportunities that have been identified are the full range and the most important priorities for the organization or the individual to face. A fifth criticism, sometimes it can be an oversimplification. Put quite simply, how can a bullet point just sum up the various points that it's supposed to? And again, that is more a criticism of use and understanding that rather than have a full set, a long list of bullet points, instead you should be focusing upon the priorities for the organization or individual. A final point, again, perhaps a limitation. Again, if the SWOT is used incorrectly, it should not be a one-off. It should not be done once and then forgotten within a drawer. It should be done as an ongoing and regular process. So in summary, the SWOT analysis remains a very powerful business analysis tool and process. It's about matching internal capabilities to the external environment, and leads us to the importance of strategic fit, matching those capabilities to the opportunities within the external environment. It can be used in a range of situations, whether for corporate planning, personal development, or objective settings of all kinds. And it can, most importantly, be used in conjunction with a range of other project planning or corporate planning tools, such as a pest analysis, a Porter's 5 Forces, a McKinsey's 7 S's, and others. And therefore, it has a very important place within this process of environmental scanning. Some limitations and risks and criticisms arise, but often they are based around the application and use of SWOT, such as oversimplification or a limitation to decision making. So hopefully that has helped you in understanding a little bit more about what is SWOT analysis. My name is Will Trevor of York School of Business, and if we can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to be in touch with us. Thank you very much for watching this video today.